I see people who come here and they want to become Europeans. We're not
Yeah.
Europeans, we're Nigerians in the diaspora.
So in today's video, we're going to have a very interesting conversation, and it's about how can migrant families, especially those from African different, support your children better when you relocate to the West. And our guest for today has had the extensive experience in teaching for over the past 20 years. And she's going to be sharing with us from her journey. This is the second video we're doing together. It's the last time she came to share with us, for those of you who wanted to get into teaching, how do you get into teaching? How do you make the transition, even if you're not being a teacher before? Welcome with me again, Mrs. Janet from Diaspora Doodles. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
So, welcome, Maf. And first things first, the first question I want to ask is, what would you say is a big difference you've seen from education system and education and parenting back in Africa versus what it is in the Western world?
So the biggest difference for me was that
Yeah.
when I was in Nigeria, my children, sending my children to school was not a big problem for me because I always knew what they were doing at school. The teachers will tell me what they're doing. There will be different things. Homework will be coming home. So I always knew what topic they were doing, or whatever they were doing at school, I would know. And if anything is out of place, the teacher would talk to me after school, to sort of put me, come on, Ma, let's brainstorm. Your child needs this or needs that. Over here in the diaspora, the first thing I know is that I have to go and look for the information. They don't give me the information the way they would give me the
Oh,
information in Nigeria. For example, it's assumed that everybody knows where to go to get the curriculum. It's assumed that everybody knows what they're doing in a particular year group at a particular time. It's assumed that all the education starts from home. So the reading and writing that your child will bring into school, you would have started from home. For example, reading a storybook to your child at night is something that's in their culture, but for us in our country, on our continent, we tell stories, but we don't have that particular emphasis, or at least in my experience, we don't have that particular emphasis on opening a book and teaching the child how to read the book and read the words and all of that. We don't have like a series of books that the children will read. If there's going to be stories, we have more emphasis on oral tradition. So I will know what my grandmother and my great grandmothers have done without
yeah,
necessarily opening a book. The
yeah,
difference when you come over is that you have to understand nobody's going to do all of that for you here. So if you
yeah,
leave your children are now left with this huge gap where you think the school is doing everything and they'll tell you what's going on, but they don't tell you. They start writing it down and they might put it down as neglect because they
wow,
expect that you should have done so many things from home. And you won't know until someone knocks on your door one day and they tell you, you know, child is going to be taken away because of all the evidence, and then you'll see everything that's down. Maybe the days when the child comes into school without the proper materials to school, they won't send any message home. No, they will write it down. The child comes into school and he's falling asleep. They won't send a message home, they will write it down. By the time they've created a catalogue of all those things, then it becomes a child welfare issue. And that's where we're missing the mark. We have taken these children out of their comfort zone. We've taken these
mhm,
children out of their country. We
yeah,
need to bridge that gap. That means we have a double task. We need to settle into this country,
mhm,
and also we need to know where we need to put the children so that they're not they're not deficient in the things that we expect or lacking in the things that they need to know to thrive in this
Part of the
place that
world.
we've brought them.
Interesting. Thank you very much. To be honest, this is the first time I am able to give context to this thing from the perspective of an educator. The average migrant family, for example, lives at the borderline of fear of social child welfare protection services, but sometimes they are not even sure at what point do I go wrong. There have been attempts to bridge that knowledge gap, but this is the first time I'm hearing it from the perspective of an educator. Thank you very much for sharing that perspective with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, seeing this wide difference, I know you've taught in Oman, Spain, you
Norway,
mentioned Bahrain, Norway.
Netherlands,
Really?
Egypt,
Whoa,
yes,
whoa. Hold on. How many countries have you taught in, ma?
9.
9 different countries. Wow. Okay, so it's like from the accidental teacher or circumstantial teacher to the global
So
teacher. That's
Globetrotter, yes.
interesting. That's phenomenal. Now I know you've seen many different migrant communities. What are some of the things, for example, that you would say are the common themes that you see across migrant communities, and then what are the different other things that you say, for example, in the African diaspora community, uh, needs to pay a lot more attention to maybe areas where they're not doing as well as other migrant communities, areas where there's a lot of room for improvement.
So the different communities that I've encountered all around the world that I've been to, I'm going to start with the Asian community because I really like the Asian community. There's a togetherness about them. They still bring their culture to wherever they come to. They have that community spirit. I'll give you an example. If I can't come to school and there's 8 of us, the Asian community, Indians, Chinese, and all whatnot, there'll be one person that'll be designated to go into school to get all the children. Now, the teacher has come out of the class that day. All these children have been cared for or taken care of and taken home, even if they're all going to one person's home. But none of those children are left behind. So teacher has nothing to write.
Wow.
But the African diaspora, one, we're not that many. And even when we're not many, we live in different parts of the country. For instance, we don't come together and form that cohesive community that we enjoyed back home. And because
Yeah.
of that, I might be running late, for instance, and I don't tell the school because I feel, "Oh, I'm just 5 minutes late." You know how it is in Nigeria. It's just 5 minutes late.
Yeah.
The teachers will wait. In Nigeria, the teachers will wait. Here, the teacher has noted it down. You're consistently late picking your child up. Next thing you know, social services is knocking on the door. When we move into a new community, we need to understand the culture of the place and try to bridge the gap for our children as well, so that our children are not left with self-esteem issues or the fact that, oh, you know, teachers have that little smirk in the classroom like, oh, he's always late, his mom's always late, or his mom doesn't know that she's supposed to read books with him, or things like that. So we need to understand, if we bring the children out of our country for a better life for them, we need to make sure we get to the finish line with them, or else there's no point bringing
Yeah.
them to a better life if we lose them along the way.
Yes. Yes. Thank you very much, ma. Like, thank you. This is a very salient point that I'm sure many parents who have children in school will start to pay attention to and take note of from here. I know, for example, when we had a call last week, one of the key things that you said to share was some very striking recommendations on how we as a people must begin to pay attention to better support our children so that at the end of the day, they're not labeled, they are not categorized as the underperformers, or the system does not leave them behind because of very simple things, basic things that we as parents uh, either are not aware of, or just due to ignorance or negligence or something. Could you please touch on those points as we begin to wrap up this part of the conversation?
So the first thing I would say about that is, for instance, our children are used to respecting adults in Africa. Our children don't talk back to teachers when teachers talk to them. They have a regard for teachers. They come here,
Yeah,
they're in the classroom. Teacher talks to them. They're probably afraid because it's an adult and I'm not supposed to respond to an adult, or maybe they're still taking it all in. Those children will be labeled as, oh, he probably doesn't understand the language. He's not from here. So English is not
yeah,
his first language. So they sort of start giving that child
wow,
something easy to do because you're going at the child's pace.
yeah,
Every child matters means that I shouldn't give this child more than he can do. So imagine
yeah,
this child was doing something far more complex in Nigeria or in Africa where he's coming from. He comes to a
yeah,
place, he comes to a place like this, and because he's not aggressively, he's not talking back to teachers, he's not bold, he doesn't seem confident in his answers. They start giving him watered down work, and watered down work might not be at the level of the rest of the class in the first place. It might be at the level the
yeah,
teacher thinks the child is at. So the gaps start to increase. He's
yeah,
doing watered down work. Mom and dad are not keeping account of what he's doing because they probably don't know the curriculum. They don't know what he's supposed to be doing in that year group. Everything is
yeah,
online, but they don't know where to access it to know what their child should be doing. So the child has done 25% of the work he's supposed to do in his year group this year. Next year, who's going to cover the remaining 75%? Nobody. So they will
mm,
still make him do easier work next year. And by the time he's gone through 3 years of education, he's totally behind. And he loses interest in school. He will find other ways to express himself that would not be it will not be seen as positive, it will not be seen as, acceptable. And before you know it, this child is falling through the cracks. He becomes a statistic. That's number
wow,
one. Number two, some of these teachers don't understand the culture. They don't understand the culture, so they don't know how to reach the children in the classroom. This is why there's a huge push. If you're like me, coming to the classroom, you know the culture, you know the children, you know what their home life is like. You know that it's not abuse. You know that this is how we are in our community. If you come
yeah,
into school, you can help children like this.
yeah,
A friend of mine and I were talking a few days ago. She's got a channel as well, where we're talking about children at school, and she works in a school where she's the only black teacher and there's only one other black child at that school. She said the first day she walked into school, the child ran up to her and hugged her and held her tight.
wow,
Do you know what that does? We all know the psyche of a child and how it relates to education. This
yeah,
child will not let her go, held her tight. And even when they had to pull her away because, my friend was going to her own classroom, after break, and this child had to go off to her own classroom, the child was crying. I want to stay with her. I want to stay with her. And it broke my heart when we were talking because both of us are passionate about this. We're trying to get more black teachers into school. Be a TA, be a teacher, be a lecturer. Let our children see someone who they can look at and say, oh, that person looks like Me.
Me.
That person, I mean, we all know how we felt when Black Panther came out. We suddenly
Yeah.
saw ourselves in a superhero. It's the same thing these children are going through. And
Wow.
usually, most of the time, parents are busy trying to get COS, they're trying to, break into the system. And they don't
Yeah.
understand that the children are going through double of that. Because you see, the
Yeah.
parents had the mindset to come here. The children probably didn't get that chance to process the information that I'm going to be leaving everything I know behind and I'm going to go to this strange country where I'm the only Black person at the school. And who
Yeah.
understands me? Nobody.
Yeah. Yeah. That's quite. To be honest, that's quite an emotional story because I can already imagine uh, that child's action being inappropriately labeled, for example. You see what I mean? It could easily be interpreted in a different sense.
Yes.
And, and if you're not careful, that could even get the parent into further spotlight in a negative sense.
Yeah.
So there are two key things that you recommended here now. Number one, parents need to do the work of getting into the curriculum so that you can tell, because I mean, like what you shared as a key difference between the education system here and we have back home, so that you can tell when your child is being shortchanged or is not being given work that meets up to his capacity, so that you can call it out quickly, and then as much as possible get more people within the community to go into education so that they can cater at least to a significant extent to the needs of these children that are not being understood and being addressed.
Yes.
Wow, wow! That's a lot to take in, to be honest. That's a lot to take in. That's a lot to take
That's
in.
that's what we see every day for those of us who are in here.
Yeah,
Um we see this, it's heartbreaking, but we cannot
yeah,
do much because
yeah,
I can take care of children in my pastoral care. I can't take care of children in another person's classroom. It's not professional. I can't take care of children in another school. But if there are lots of us who decide, okay, we're going into this and we're going to help our children. If for anything we're going to give them the role model to look up to, then we've
yeah.
done a great job already. And we get to the end of the road without
Mhm.
losing them.
Yes, yes, yes. Because that's a key vision. That's a key goal that I'm quite confident every single parent within the African migrant community have. They share that in common is that we came here, we're making all of these sacrifices because of our children, and we want to do whatever we can to support them. Thank you, Ma. Ma, do you have any final words on this section? Because now that you said this, for some reason, it's almost like you're telling me to get into teaching quickly.
I've begged you, come into teaching. Come into teaching.
That's what I hear you say to me. We'll see. But I do have final words in this regard because this is going to be an ongoing conversation that we'll have. I'm sure that there are avenues we can set up to further push because for some people, genuinely, the only reason they are not getting into teaching is ignorance, not knowing that knowledge gap of I am here, you're there. How do I even bridge this gap? How do I so we're going to be doing a lot of work in this regard together. I see it
Yes,
happening
yes.
already. And thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very. So, Ma, do you have you got final words for parents who may be struggling right now? For parents who, for example, they know okay, some parents have actually seen the gap. They just do not know how to connect the dots now. Have you got words for the parents like that in that category? Some of them are even worried. Some of them are scared. They do not want to lose their children, but they can see they sort of feel like they are being challenged. They are not properly equipped. What can you say to parents like this?
I always say education starts from home, and
Yeah,
that no matter what they do at school, that's
yeah,
school. We need to connect with our children. So in Africa, A parent is a parent. A child cannot negotiate with a parent. But we're in a different place now, and we need to adapt to this place. I'm not saying teach your children to be, to disrespect you or to see you as less than who you are. No, but you need to dialogue with with your children. You need to come to that level where you can talk to them, you can become their friends, but still have that gap where the respect still is, so that when your children mix with other children at school and those children are saying things, it will not be strange to your children. Give them the confidence that they need to be able to stand up, to defend themselves at school, to defend
Yeah.
their knowledge, to defend where they're from. Another thing is, please don't try to erase your culture when you come here. I see people who come here and they want to become Europeans. We're not
Yeah.
Europeans. We're Nigerians in the diaspora. And because we're
Yeah.
Nigerians in the diaspora, we need to remember to be proudly Nigerian where we go. Because when we give the children that bedrock, that foundation, if you know who you are, nobody can tell you who you're not. You will always stand
Yeah.
firm on who you are, and you will stand tall in who you
Yeah.
are, and it will help you get to places. Don't try to erase
Yeah.
their language. Still teach them the language. Don't try to erase the food. Still teach them how to eat the food, so that if Thomas is talking about fish and chips, your child should be proud of jollof rice.
Yeah.
Jollof rice is going places, and it's because some
Yeah.
people have decided to remain who they are, and it helps a lot.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you. And that also helps them with their sense of identity, right? So,
Yes,
so they're not lost in the crowd. He's Asian, he's Chinese, he's English, and then who am I?
I'm
Uh,
Nigerian.
yeah, exactly. I sincerely do appreciate that you made out the time to do this interview with me. Uh, Now, I'll put a link down to our YouTube channel. Do subscribe to Diaspora Doodles. I think one of the things that I really like that you're doing on your channel, right, is how you interview different people, different diasporans who have gone through different career, different pathways. I think it's really beautiful. So, guys, do well to subscribe to that YouTube channel, so that you can see these differences that she's sharing on there. Now,
Thank you.
so until next time, I'll see you guys again.